Want help to grow your business? Download Bryn, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit bryn.ai or search the App Store today.
Hello, I'm Wayne Berry and welcome to Top Gun Sales. In this particular episode, we're going to be looking at the art of closing the sale, how to get people committed to buy. So you may have seen some previous episodes, you may have met me in some previous episodes where we've talked about the entire sales process. Now, so frequently I have sales managers tell me that if we could just get our people to close the sale, if they could just learn how to close the sale, it would make a world of difference. Well, we're going to have a chat about that. And we're going to look at some strategies certainly around closing the sale. And I think you may discover a few things about closing the sale that possibly you weren't aware of before. Because I find this part of the sales process is one of the least understood parts of the sale. So firstly, let me let you in on the real secret of closing the sale. And it's not in the powerful ways that you go about doing this. In fact, the real secret in how to close the sale has got more to do with what it is that you do before you ask the person to actually make the commitment. What you do before is far, far more important than the way that you ask the person to make the commitment. So in a previous episode, which you may have seen, you may not have seen, but it's worth repeating here now if you have seen it, and it's to explain that the sales process today, I believe, should be entirely different to the way it used to be. However, I've labelled this particular slide here common model of selling because I believe this model of selling really belongs to some bygone era, but sadly, it is still the most common method used in selling today. And this particular model of selling, it begins by building some rapport. And this is where the gift of the gab supposedly was so important because roughly 10% of the time was spent building rapport. This is where the slap on the back joke telling sales type came from. So it's built on a very, very thin veneer of relationship, very, very superficial. And then the next stage in the sales process, we were told we had to qualify. Now I say we were told because many, many years ago, in fact, nearly 40 years ago, this was the method that I was taught. But I notice that this method is in wide use today in the marketplace, not just here in Australia where I am right now, but all over the world as we work with people in different countries. And roughly about 20% of the time is spent today by many salespeople qualifying the buyer. Now, qualifying the buyer means, do they meet my criteria? Should I spend some time with this person? Are these potentially real prospects? Are they likely to buy, or are they, as we often say in Australia, tire kickers? They're really never going to do anything. And then the next part of the sales process was the presentation, or is the presentation in this model. And the presentation was very, very comprehensive. In fact, have you heard the expression, a canned presentation? Well, a canned presentation means you treat every prospect exactly the same. You tell them everything you possibly can about your product or service and hope that part of that will appeal to them and they want to go ahead and do something. Now, a massive 30% was spent making the presentation. And then we were told, and many salespeople still believe this today, that if you can master this next phase of the sales process, wow, you will be enormously successful. And of course, this is the big close. We were told that you need to close heavy, close hard, close often, always be closing. The ABC of selling was always be closing. And a massive 40, 50% sometimes of the entire sales process focuses on closing the sale. And we were told if you could really do this, well, this is absolutely going to guarantee your success in sales today. But can I suggest to you that being heavy and mastering this step in the sales process is not going to lead to success. In fact, it's one of the reasons why salespeople lose business, because of the way they go about closing the sale. It's because they place a very, very heavy emphasis on closing the sale. Now, you remember I said before, the real secret to closing the sale is everything that you do before you ask the person to make the commitment. And by the way, I'd like to suggest that you actually reframe the way you see this part of the sales process and see it as asking the person to make a commitment, not to you, but a commitment to themselves to change some aspect of their business life, their personal life, whatever it is that you're putting forward to them to make a change in their life about. Now, this model of selling, we flipped it upside down quite a number of years ago now, a very, very well-proven system, this one here, which we call the Top Gun model of selling. And it begins by, firstly, establishing a relationship built on trust. In fact, we spend a lot of time developing the relationship and a lot of time building trust. And of course, what's the best way to build trust? Make a promise and keep it. Build rapport, show an interest in the person, build that trust, because on a foundation of trust, almost anything is possible. However, if you don't have the trust firmly in place, then moving forward from that point and asking the person to make a commitment is very, very difficult to do, unless absolutely they've got to have your product or service regardless of their circumstances. The next part of the sales process involves understanding the person's needs. Now, this is where we deliberately ask questions and deliberately set out to understand everything we can possibly understand about the prospect's current situation, their needs, and we spend quite a lot of time. In fact, around about 30% or more of the time is spent actually understanding the client's needs. Now, I should point out, by the way, that 40% of the time spent building trust is not just right at the beginning, trust. Do you trust me now? Can we move on? Trust is something that you can develop and continue to work on right throughout the entire relationship. Really, really important. And by the way, trust is such a fragile thing. You can undo all of the good work done in developing trust by letting the client down, breaking some promises, or saying some things that are inappropriate. So we build trust, we understand our client's needs, and then we move to the next phase, which is actually making the presentation. Now, with this model of selling, the presentation phase is actually compressed. It's only 20%, sometimes less. You see, if you truly understand what it is that your client needs, you can make a much, much shorter presentation, and that presentation can absolutely address the needs that you have uncovered. Now, if you have a look at that, we've got 90% of the sales process here. 90% has nothing to do with closing the sale. This is what I was saying before. It's everything that you do beforehand that is either going to make this commitment phase easy or impossible. Because frankly, the clever, tricky words that many sales trainers and programs teach around how to confront the person, how to get that yes. In fact, some sales trainers and some books and some audio programs and videos share with you the 101 ways to close the sale. I think they should add in there the 101 clever, tricky ways to close the sale. Frankly, I think it's all about losing the sale if you use the clever, tricky stuff, and you don't need 101 ways to close the sale. I'll give you some questions, I'll give you some ideas around closing the sale, certainly here, but it's everything you do beforehand that's going to make the world a difference. In fact, if you do these things well, if you build trust, if you understand the need, you make the right recommendation in your presentation, pretty much at the end, they're going to say, wow, this is really good. I'd like this, let's go ahead. However, can we really absolutely wait until the prospect says, I'd like to go ahead? No. And you'll notice that I'm only suggesting you spend 10% or less of the time in this phase. I do believe you need to be proactive, because sometimes people won't simply say, yes, I think I'll do that. I mean, for example, I guess I may be a little critical of salespeople and customer service, but unless the person asks me to buy, unless I absolutely have to buy from them, I'll tend to not actually go ahead. Maybe I'm being a little bit hard to get along with there. But your clients are very often the same. If you don't show that you believe it is truly right for them by asking them to go ahead, then you may well leave them thinking, well, they haven't asked me to go ahead. Maybe they don't think this is right for me. Maybe they're just a salesperson trying to sell me something. The fact of the matter is, if what you have recommended to them is right for your prospect, I believe we have an obligation to ask the person to make the commitment to themselves to go ahead, or they're going to miss out. Now, this is called a reframe. Rethink the way you see the closing situation. See it instead as encouraging and assisting the buyer to make a commitment to themselves to change so many aspects, perhaps, of their personal life and their business life, which they will absolutely miss out on if they don't go ahead. Now, if you have that conviction in your heart, if you truly believe you're helping this person, it's going to come through at a heart level to your prospect. You see, you may have heard me say in previous episodes, and I'll say it here again now, your outer world is always going to be absolutely a reflection of your inner world. And I do mean inner world. What you hold in your heart, what you truly believe, is going to come across to somebody. If in your heart and in your mind you're thinking, I need to close this sale because I want to make this commission, that's going to come across. If, on the other hand, in your heart and in your mind you're thinking, I can really help this person, I really need to get them to understand that if they make this commitment to themselves, it's going to change so many aspects of their life in a really, really good way. I need to help them to go ahead and to see how important it is for them to make that commitment to themselves. So if you do that reframe and you see it as helping the person to make a commitment, helping the person to make a decision that's going to benefit them enormously, then you're going to feel more comfortable about asking them to make that commitment. You're going to do that with much more conviction, and they're going to get your essence of this person genuinely cares and really wants me to have something special. So let's have a look here now, again, at the importance of knowing when to close is more important than knowing how to close. So initially we said it's all of the things that you do beforehand that make all of the difference. But the other distinction I want you to get here, it's knowing when to close that's far more important than knowing how to close. I mean, I can teach you in a matter of a couple of minutes how to close the sale. I can give you the words to use. In fact, I will shortly. But if you close at an inappropriate time, if you ask the person to make a commitment, if they haven't really thought it through, you're going to come across as high pressure. You see, the best time to ask a person to make a commitment to themselves is when you see a buying signal. Now, possibly you've come across this term before, buying signal. So let me define for you, if I may, what a buying signal is exactly. You see, a buying signal is anything that your prospect says or does that indicates they've already bought. Not that they're about ready to buy, but they've already bought. Now, you're possibly wondering, how can you figure that out? Are we talking mind reading here? Well, I'd like you to think about when you're making a considered decision. Oftentimes, you're talking to a salesperson, maybe not even a purchasing situation, but you're trying to work out, should I go ahead, should I not go ahead? So very often what will happen is your mind will flip to, yeah, this makes sense, I think I'll do this. And then even a few seconds later, you'll flip to, oh, look, maybe I need to give this some more consideration. And then the salesperson will say something more, he said, no, this is really good, I think I'll go ahead. Oh, no, look, maybe I better think about this. Maybe I better get some quotes and ask around and think about, oh, no, look. So our mind flip-flops between, yes, I think I'll do it, and no, I better think about this some more. Now, buying signals, if you understand what they are and you know how to look for them, will tell you when the mind is in, yeah, I think I'll do that. I'm ready to go ahead. And if you ask...
To continue enjoying this presentation, download Bryn, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit bryn.ai or search the App Store today.